What is the most stupid rule you've ever seen? A personal favorite of mine was having to clean supermarket toilets every half hour. Since we weren't allowed to start until the bathroom was empty, it always took at least 10 minutes to get started. From there, we had to restock soap and roll, brush and mop the floor and wipe toilets, urinals and sinks, different cloths, which took a minimum of 15 minutes if you half-assed it. Finally, you weren't allowed to let people in for 10 minutes after mopping to allow the floor to dry. After being pulled up for not cleaning them every 30 minutes and explaining the problem, I got an official written warning. Naturally, I then closed the toilets to make sure they were empty and did everything as instructed, which got easier as the day progressed since the toilets never actually opened for use. More of a suspicious sign, but some convenience stores up here have a "No robberies allowed" sign. Steal the sign during the robbery. Checkmate. Years ago, we had a panic wave in Brazil about safety in gas stations. Congress passed a law forbidding cell phones, lighters and anything that can generate electric sparkles to be used on such places. Meaning, if fully followed, no one could ever leave a gas station. When I was a kid, my parents had a rule that we weren't allowed to use the front door of the house. My parents weren't the kind of people who explained themselves to their children, so to this day I have no idea why this was the rule. One day while climbing a tree, I was stung by a venomous caterpillar and it was both extremely painful and I had a bad anaphylactic reaction. The front door to the house was locked, so I pounded on it until my sister came and she refused to open the door. She kept saying, go around," as I was crying and gasping for air. The last thing I remember is collapsing and looking up at my sister through the window who was smiling smugly. Apparently a neighbor saw me lying there and called 911 and I was taken to the hospital and recovered just fine. But my sister never so much as apologized. Even as an adult she defends her action as we weren't supposed to use the front door. It was where I used to work as a tutor. People started taking 15-minute breaks to eat in the middle of an 8-hour shift. The boss's assistant got annoyed that we were off the floor for 15 minutes, and if we suddenly got busy there wouldn't be a tutor to help. Also, she didn't like that they had to pay for time not working. So she implemented a rule that all paid breaks could only last 5 minutes unless scheduled. The thing that makes it a stupid rule is that scheduled breaks had to be a minimum of 30 minutes long, and they were also paid. So everybody just went to the boss and asked for a scheduled break to replace the old 15-minute unscheduled one. So we went from taking a 15-minute paid break whenever the tutoring center wasn't busy to taking a 30-minute paid break at a set time that may or may not be busy. She doubled the time lost to breaks, and made the tutor shortage due to breaks even worse. But hey, no more long unscheduled breaks. New rules at work. No longer allowed to order food while clocked in, can only get discount after working at least 5 hours. Also can't eat in the break room anymore or in the lobby. Where and when am I supposed to eat, fuckers? Also should add that I close at the restaurant I work at, so kitchen is closed by the time I clock out. You should ask them in this exact wording. Please. Someone that worked at my high school, reception mostly, was on this little power trip and had a bunch of rules to make himself feel important. The stupidest rule was that one door that students were not allowed to use to go from the reception type area to the study area. Only he was allowed to use it and students had to go all the way around, literally going outside and entering the study area through the front door, whatever the weather. He even made a sign and everything that said, "This is not a door," which he hung on the door. No one liked or respected you, Mark. I remember when I was a child and went to the indoors pool. Outside of every sauna in there, we always have saunas in indoor pool locker rooms. There used to be signs saying, "Having sex is not allowed in here." I asked my mom about it once and she said, "Well, yes. Sometimes adults aren't very discreet. You should be though, when you grow older." Our vice principal in high school had some kind of obsession with stopping loitering. I guess she forgot things called breaks and spare periods for seniors exist. In her infinite wisdom she decided that the best way to combat this loitering epidemic was to first close the front hallway by the office to any student traffic from 9 a.m. when class starts to 3 p.m. when it ended. That presents a few problems. 1. Some people have lockers in this hall and need to get stuff in between classes. 2. The way our school was built, if you couldn't use this hallway you literally had to go outside to get from one wing of the school into the rest of the school. Also, if you got sent to the office for any reason, not only were you in trouble for that, but also now you're in trouble for using the hallway as well, which was an automatic detention for anyone caught using the hallway. It later escalated to essentially not being allowed to be inside the school unless you were in class or in the cafeteria at lunchtime. So if you had a spare period, you were pretty much stuck sitting up at McDonald's or driving around aimlessly, and students renting out the trunks of their cars as lockers since the risk of using your own locker was too high. Eventually the entire staff had enough of this shit, including our school cop, who all this time had been refusing to actually charge anyone with loitering, hence the detention punishment, because in his own words, "This is the stupidest fucking rule I have ever heard. This woman is insane." They got the school board involved and she was relieved of her duties. In my old school, you're not allowed to go to the bathroom during class. If you do, the teacher docks points. It wasn't that kids were on their phone, this was back in elementary school before mobile phones were a thing. Teachers just wanted you to piss yourself or something.